Coming up on Mountain News this morning, a more accessible overdose medication is newly approved by the FDA. And more than 7 million Americans depend on insulin to stabilize their blood sugar, but a startling report details why many may be going without it. Plus, a look at what steps legislators are taking to improve worker safety in construction zones.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News This Morning.
Good morning, I'm Taylor Upchurch. Today is Thursday, April 25th. Let's check in with Brandon Robinson for a look at your forecast this morning. Brandon, it sounds like we need to get those umbrellas ready for today.
Yeah, I think you'll be okay early this morning, except in parts of Southern Kentucky, East Tennessee. But for the most part, I do think the chances will gradually increase throughout the day, especially tonight as that cold front gets ready to move through. Buffalo Mountain on the cameras this morning, all quiet there still. Off in the distance, you can still see the towers. No deer on top of Whitesburg Pine Mountain this morning like we saw yesterday. But the cars, a few more of those overnight. We'll see live pinpoint Doppler radar, a few little showers into parts of Pulaski County, over into Claiborne and Campbell counties in East Tennessee, and a few little spotty showers into parts of Pike County as well. 50s and 60s this morning as you head out the door, so very mild across the state. 64 Paducah, Bowling Green as well. A little cooler in the Tri-Cities at 53, 58 in Cincinnati. So an iced coffee type day on the coffee meter. And as we head into the day planner, you're going to see those rain chances gradually increase and temperatures climb up to right around 80 degrees, close to, let's say, upper 70s for daytime highs. Full forecast in just a few minutes. Taylor?
Thanks, Brandon. For the third year in a row, a sitting or former U.S. president was on hand to deliver a speech at the Prescription Drug Abuse and Heroin Summit, but 2019 is the first time a First Lady has delivered a speech at the event. WYMT's Will Puckett was there as the President and First Lady addressed the nearly 4,000 on hand.
After a day of multiple sessions sharing ideas throughout communities across the United States, President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump were in town to give an update on how Washington is trying to help with the opioid epidemic. President Trump called on everyone in attendance to work to end the crisis that plagues so many Americans.
My administration is deploying every resource at our disposal to empower you, to support you, and to fight right by your side, and that's what we're doing.
In his speech Wednesday, he highlighted much of the work his administration has been successful at pulling together.
I signed the Support for Patients and Communities Act, the largest ever legislative effort to combat a single drug crisis in our nation's history.
The president talked about the reduction in veteran opioid use and overall drop in opioid deaths.
1 year ago, we pledged to cut nationwide opioid prescriptions by 1/3. Already during my time in office, we have reduced the total amount of opioid prescribed by 34%. That's a pretty amazing number.
The president also took the time to acknowledge those who have overcome addiction, while also highlighting those who have seen the grips of addiction firsthand.
12 days before Christmas, December 13th, 2017, 12 days before Christmas, he passed away of a heroin and fentanyl overdose.
And addressing what he calls a national emergency at the southern border and calls for renewed talks in Washington to fix also what he calls a broken immigration system. Now, the summit wraps up later today. We will attend a few sessions on the SAM Summit, which are smart approaches to marijuana. We will have those updates at 4 and 6 later this afternoon and tonight. In Atlanta, Will Puckett, WYMT Mountain News.
You can watch the president's entire address on WYMT.com. And following the president's speech was Kentucky's Secretary of Justice and Public Safety Cabinet John Tilley. Secretary Tilley covered reform in Kentucky and many of the policies Kentucky has enacted to start helping addicts reform and return to society. Tilley talked about how Kentucky reduced their prison growth rate of more than 40% and how the Commonwealth is working to help addicts.
Kentucky took action in 2011. We passed a justice reinvestment package, which, above all else, focused on the reality that addiction, by definition, is a disease of relapse. The criminal justice system doesn't always recognize that fact.
Tilly continued to say that there are multiple other things the Commonwealth is doing and can do to help reform our addicts. A generic nasal spray style medication used to reverse the effects of an overdose is newly approved by the FDA. It's known as naloxone hydrochloride. Pharmacists say with brief training you can save a life. There are 4 simple steps. Peel the tab, place a finger on either side of the nozzle, and spray into one's nose. If there's no response, repeat in the second nostril. Then immediately call 911 as the effects only last 30 to 90 minutes. Pharmacists say both adults and children may receive the medication.
This is something that you can have at home, that with brief education from the pharmacy staff, we can teach you how to use this. So you could potentially save a life of a family member or someone who unexpectedly comes in contact with an opioid.
The FDA aims to clear a path for people to eventually purchase the nasal spray over the counter. 10 surrounding ARH pharmacies accept walk-in requests for the spray. And more than 7 million Americans depend on insulin to stabilize their blood sugar. A new report shows many of them are struggling to pay for medication that would cost far less outside the U.S. CBS's Natalie Brand has the story.
Bronte Fulner was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when she was 8 years old. Now 13, she uses an insulin pump to keep her blood sugar at safe levels.
It's so critical that I have insulin at all times.
Fulner joined Maryland Democrat Elijah Cummings to release the findings of a congressional committee staff report exploring the skyrocketing cost of diabetes medications.
For seniors and other Medicare beneficiaries in our congressional district, the cost of a widely used insulin would be 92% lower, listen to this, at Australian prices, 82% lower at UK prices.
Cummings says that's in part because Medicare is not allowed to negotiate directly with drug makers. After years of hefty price increases, some patients are skipping or rationing their medication.
They will tell me that they're not buying the insulin because they need to buy their food.
Lawmakers have held a series of hearings on the issue, with both parties demanding answers from pharmaceutical companies.
If you think you can, just out-talk us without any transparency, without any accountability, I just want you to know your days are numbered.
Drug makers blame the troubled healthcare system plus the cost of innovation. Some have made moves to lower prices, but frustrated lawmakers say it's a life and death problem that needs a better cure. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Washington.
A former Kentucky state employee has filed a federal lawsuit against Governor Matt Bevin and the head of the Labor Department. Chris Cook says she was fired in retaliation after she attended a rally in support of raising teacher pay, where her information was taken by Capitol workers, including her name and where she worked. Cook was fired from her state job 6 days later. An assistant to the Secretary of Labor, David Dickerson, was the one who terminated her. She and her lawyers are suing Dickerson and Bevin, claiming the termination violates Cook's right to advocate and voice her opinion.
We hope that Chris can serve not only as a model, but a leader and a rallying point for others who feel threatened by the administration because of what they're doing, trying to protect some of the fundamental aspects of our society, like public education.
Lawyers say other public employees are also afraid of retribution for speaking out. A new bill that aims to protect road crews that work near traffic will go into effect this summer. In Kentucky, speeding in a work zone gets you a double fine, but other violations are not. This bill will expand double fining to things like running stop signs, incorrect lane switching, and any other violation that could endanger construction workers.
Highway worker accidents have actually been on the rise, and so just patrolling the work zones more and providing our law enforcement with the tools they need and the resources they need to patrol our work zones safely is the main purpose of the bill.
Those fundings will go to the Highway Worker Safety Fund, which pays law enforcement for their presence at construction sites. It goes into effect June 27th. And the Inez Motel and Restaurant does not have a clean reputation. We have reported multiple drug busts there in past years. But now a faith-based group in Martin County aims to renovate the abandoned business into a drug rehabilitation center. Pastor Casey Carver and his board of 6 other community members say this addition will fill a much-needed void in the area.
Just hoping that they see that there is a need, of which I believe most of Kentucky and even within the country can see right now, that there is a need for drug rehabilitation.
The center will be named God's Connection. Officials will not give out medication, only what Carver calls religious healing. It will be a 30-day program and membership is $300. If you would like to donate, we have information on how to do so on our website, WYMT.com. And the Pike County Library hosted a job fair yesterday. Multiple community outreach programs made it happen from 10 until 3. 25 businesses set up tables with more than 450 jobs available. Organizers say nearly 300 people showed up. Career advisor Kayla Jude says job fairs like this help showcase the talent this region has to offer.
Employers come to the Appalachian region and they see that our workforce is here and that they're ready to work, that they're able to work, that they want to work, and that we have the skills that people are looking for and that people need.
This multi-employer job fair is held twice each year. The next event will be in the fall. And riders on a popular Dollywood roller coaster found themselves stuck when the Fire Chase Express stopped working. Park officials say the safety sensor for the Fire Chaser tripped, stalling the ride. Riders were stranded about 20 minutes until being escorted off. The ride was reopened after safety inspections. And one of very few handmade apparatus companies is what owners in Corbin call the hidden jewel of the mountains. Southeast Apparatus in Corbin says they do all custom emergency vehicles and equipment used from the 1960s. They say while many apparatus businesses use heavy machinery, most of their vehicles are put together and manufactured by hand in the shop. Employees say they take extra precautions to make sure their emergency vehicles are safe.
It's getting babies out of burning buildings. That gets to me. It really does. That's what we do, though. That's why we do it.
Southeast Apparatus has been operating since 2012. Just ahead on Mountain News this morning, we look at new guidelines on limiting children's screen time and what parents can do to fill the gap.
Most of you will start the morning dry, but take the rain gear with you because you may need it later today and tonight. I'll tell you when it all should start, coming up in about 3 minutes.